Okay, so I need to tell you something that happened to me last semester. And I know, everyone says their story is crazy. Everyone says you won't believe this. But I need you to actually hear me out because what happened in that lecture hall changed everything. Like, not just for me, for a lot of people. But to understand why it mattered so much, I gotta take you back to the beginning. My name's Maya. I'm 24. I go to a mid-sized university in Ohio. Not gonna say which one, but it's the kind of school where everyone knows everyone. The football games are a religion, and the professors? Some of them have been there so long they think they literally are the school. And one of those professors was Dr. Caroline Holt. Dr. Holt taught sociology of gender and media, which, okay, sounds super niche, but it was required for my communications major, so I had no choice. And honestly, when I first signed up for her class freshman year 3 years ago, I was actually excited. I'd heard she was brilliant, sharp, published. One of those professors who makes you rethink everything you thought you knew. And the first week? She was incredible. She walked in wearing this blazer, no notes, just talking completely from memory about media representation, about how the images we consume shape the way we see ourselves. She was passionate. She was funny. She made eye contact with every single person in that room like she actually wanted us to be there. I was hooked. I sat in the front row. I took notes on everything. I raised my hand constantly. I was that girl. You know the one. The overeager freshman who actually does the readings and wants extra credit. And for about 2 weeks, Dr. Holt seemed to like that. But then something shifted. I don't even remember exactly what started it. I think it was the day I pushed back on something she said.
We were talking about beauty standards in advertising, and she made this claim that I'd actually read a counter-study about, so I raised my hand and I said something like, I read that researchers at Duke found conflicting data on that. Would that change the interpretation? Normal. Academic. Totally fine thing to say in college, right? She looked at me. Just looked at me. For like 3 full seconds of silence. And then she said, and I remember this word for word, she said, Miss. Maya, is it? Let's not get ahead of ourselves. And the class laughed. Not like maliciously. Just that awkward laugh people do when a teacher shuts someone down. But I felt my face go hot. I felt it. And I put my hand down. And I didn't raise it again for the rest of that class. I thought it was a one-time thing. It wasn't. But wait, before I keep going. Hey, if you're watching this from America, from England, from Pakistan, from India, or honestly anywhere in the world, drop your country in the comments right now. I genuinely love seeing where you guys are watching from. Like it blows my mind that this story is reaching someone sitting in America at midnight just vibing. That's crazy to me. Drop it. Americans gang, let me see you. And real quick, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. It's free, it takes 2 seconds, and it means you don't miss any of these stories. We drop new ones every week and trust me, this one is not even close to the craziest thing that's happened. So subscribe, turn on the bell, and let's get back into it. Because like I said, it wasn't a one-time thing. Over the next few weeks, I started to notice a pattern. Every time I spoke up, every time, Dr. Holt had something. A little comment. A little look. A little way of making me feel like I was being a lot. One time I answered a question and she said, that's an interesting interpretation. Does anyone else want to try? Like my answer wasn't even worth responding to. One time I turned in a paper early, like 3 days early, because I was proud of it and nervous about it, and she handed it back with a B- and a single comment at the top that said, surface level. Dig deeper. That was it. No explanation. No guidance. Just surface level. I went to her office hours to ask what she meant. She looked at me over her glasses and said, Maya, good writing doesn't need to be explained. Either you feel the depth of an argument or you don't. I walked out of there feeling like absolute garbage. But here's the thing. I kept coming back. I don't know why, honestly. Maybe it was stubbornness. Maybe it was that part of me that genuinely loved the subject matter. Maybe it was the fact that I couldn't accept that this brilliant woman just didn't like me for no reason. Because she did like some students. Oh, she had her favorites. Big time. There was this girl named Courtney. Tall, blonde, confident in that effortless way that makes you feel like you're watching a movie character. Courtney could say something completely basic, like textbook regurgitation basic, and Dr. Holt would nod like she'd just unlocked a secret of the universe. Exactly, Courtney. That's exactly it. Meanwhile, I would cite 3 sources and let's not get ahead of ourselves. By sophomore year, it had become a thing. Like, my friends knew about it. My roommate Jasmine, she's the one who finally named it. We were studying one night, and I was venting about another weird interaction in Holt's class, and Jasmine put down her highlighter and said, "Maya, that woman is targeting you." I pushed back. I said no, she's just strict. She's like that with everyone. Jasmine showed me her phone. She'd asked around. Other students in the major. 2 of them, both black girls, both outspoken, both in Holt's classes over the years, had the same exact experience. Same cold looks. Same dismissive comments. Same feeling of being made small in a room where they should have felt big. We sat with that for a minute. And then Jasmine said, "So, what are you going to do about it?" And honestly, at that point, I still didn't know. Because here's what you have to understand about calling out a professor. It's not like calling out a peer. You can't just go off on Twitter about it. You can't just stop being around them. They control your grade. They control your letters of recommendation. They have been at this institution for 15 years, and you have been here for 2. The power imbalance is real. So what did I do? I kept my head down. I kept working. I kept taking her classes because she taught 4 of the core courses in my track. I had no choice, and I kept getting grades that were just slightly off. Not failing. Not even bad, really. But never quite what they should have been. Like someone kept turning my volume down by just a few notches. A minus where I should have gotten an A B plus where I deserved better. And I watched Courtney and students like her float through those same classes getting straight A's for work that, and I say this not out of bitterness, but out of pure, frustrated honesty, was not stronger than mine. By junior year, I had kind of accepted it as my reality. This is just how it is. This is just this woman. Get through it, get your degree, get out. But junior year is also when something new happened. Dr. Holt got a promotion. She became the department chair. And suddenly, she wasn't just my professor. She was the person who decided which students got research grants, which students got recommended for internships, which students' names got passed along to industry contacts. She had become, without me fully realizing it, one of the most important people in my professional future. And she still looked at me like I was mildly annoying. I went home for winter break that year, and I cried in my childhood bedroom for like 2 hours. Not because I was weak, but because I was tired. 3 years of feeling like I wasn't good enough in the space where I worked the hardest. My mom sat with me. She's the kind of woman who doesn't sugarcoat things. She grew up in Detroit. She's dealt with way worse than a condescending professor, and she said something I didn't expect. She said, "Baby, you keep trying to make her see you. Stop trying to make her see you. Make everyone else see you." I didn't fully understand what she meant yet, but I was about to. Okay, I need to pause for a sec. Because if you've made it this far, if you're still here, I just want to say, you already know this story doesn't end with me just sitting there taking it, right? You already know something happens. So stay with me. But before we get there, real quick, smash that like button if you've ever had a teacher or a boss or literally anyone in a position of power make you feel like you were too much. Like your voice was just inconvenient to them. If you've ever felt that, like the video. Because you're about to feel very, very seen in the next 15 minutes. Also, drop in the comments, what city are you watching from? I'm telling you, seeing Rawalpindi, Lahore, Dubai, London, New York all in the same comment section does something to me. We're global. Drop your city. Okay, back to it. Senior year. Senior year. Last semester. I walked into Dr. Holt's capstone seminar, the one you have to take to graduate with honors, and I made a decision. I was done being small. Not loud. Not combative. Not dramatic. Just done shrinking. The class was 15 students. Small, seminar style, around a big oval table. Dr. Holt at the head. The assignment for the semester: develop an original research project on media and identity, present it to the class, and submit a final paper. This was it. The big one. I spent the first 2 weeks doing something I'd never done before. I stopped paying attention to Dr. Holt's reactions to me. Every time I felt that familiar heat of her dismissiveness, I just redirected. I focused on my peers. I focused on the material. I started having really genuine conversations with the other students in the seminar, including, weirdly, Courtney, who turned out to be a lot more self-aware than I'd given her credit for. Courtney actually came up to me after the third class and said, "Hey, can I ask you something? Do you think Holt is weird about certain students?" I looked at her, and I said, "What do you mean?" And Courtney kind of grimaced and said, "I feel like she's way harder on you than on me. And I don't think it's about your work." That was not what I expected. We grabbed coffee after that. And Courtney told me that she'd noticed it for a while and felt weird about it. That she'd even tried to deflect some of Holt's praise toward me in class discussions, and Holt would just redirect. This woman was sitting right next to the thing she was doing, and she couldn't see herself doing it. But Courtney seeing it? That mattered. Because Courtney was Holt's golden student. And even she could see it wasn't right. Meanwhile, I was building my project. My research focus: how university academic spaces either amplify or suppress the voices of first-generation and minority students based on implicit faculty bias. Yeah, I know. Was I writing about Dr. Holt? I mean, not by name. But I was writing about the experience she had given me and the experience she had apparently given others. I did proper research. I found existing literature. I conducted anonymous surveys of students in the communications department. 43 students responded. 31 of them, 31, described experiences of feeling consistently dismissed or underevaluated by at least one professor in their major. The majority were students of color. The majority were women. The majority pointed to a specific pattern: pushback in classroom settings followed by grading inconsistencies. I built the whole thing out. Data, qualitative interviews, literature review. I cross-referenced everything. I had my methodology reviewed by a stats TA I knew from another class. This thing was tight. And I was scared out of my mind to present it. Because Dr. Holt was going to be in that room. 2 days before my presentation, I almost changed my topic. I genuinely sat at my desk at midnight and almost rewrote the whole thing into something safe. Something about Instagram and body image. Fine, whatever. Nobody gets hurt. I passed the class. Done. But I thought about my mom's words. Stop trying to make her see you. Make everyone else see you. I thought about the 31 students who filled out that survey anonymously because they didn't feel safe putting their names on it. And I thought about 3 years of B-minuses and let's not get ahead of ourselves and surface level and all those tiny cuts that add up to a wound. I kept my topic. The night before, Jasmine helped me practice. She sat at our kitchen table pretending to be Dr. Holt, doing the dismissive look, and I had to keep presenting through it. Just keep going. Just keep being clear and grounded and citing your sources and keep going. By the time I went to bed, I had done it 11 times. I was ready. Presentation day. I wore my good blazer. Don't ask me why that mattered, it just did. I felt like armor. I was last to present. Holt's choice, she organized the schedule, and I don't know if that was intentional or not, but by the time it was my turn, everyone was a little restless, a little worn out from a full day of seminars. I stood up. I said, my project is called The Volume Problem: How Academic Spaces Systematically Silence Underrepresented Voices. I want to start by asking everyone in this room a question. I looked around the table. Has there ever been a moment in your academic career when you knew, your contribution was strong, and it was still treated like it wasn't? When you left a classroom feeling smaller than when you walked in, and you couldn't quite explain why. The room was quiet. Like, actually quiet. Not restless quiet. Paying attention quiet. A few people nodded. Slowly. Then a few more. I didn't look at Dr. Holt yet. I just kept going. I walked through my research. 30 minutes of material I'd been living in for 4 months. I talked about implicit bias in academia. I talked about evaluation consistency. I showed the survey data anonymized, responsible, properly cited. I showed the patterns. And at one point, about halfway through, I finally looked at Dr. Holt. She was still. Very still. Her pen was on the table and she wasn't writing, and she was looking at me with an expression I had genuinely never seen on her face before. Not dismissive. Not amused. Just watching. I kept going. I got to the qualitative section. The actual quotes from the student surveys. And I read a few of them out loud, anonymized, of course, and they were devastating. Not dramatic. Just honest. Just the truth of what it feels like to be a student who works hard and feels invisible. One of them said, "I stopped raising my hand because it stopped feeling worth it." The room was very quiet when I said that. And then something happened that I did not plan for. Courtney, perfect GPA, professor's pet Courtney, started crying. Not sobbing. Just this quiet, surprised kind of crying, like something she'd been holding had just released. And she put her hand over her mouth and kind of laughed at herself for it, and said, "Sorry. Sorry, yeah. That was it. Just yeah." Other students started talking. Not waiting for me to finish, just responding. Like the room had cracked open. A guy named Deshaun said he'd switched his major sophomore year partly because of one professor's consistent dismissiveness. A girl named Priya said she'd stopped going to office hours entirely because she dreaded the interactions. Dr. Holt still hadn't said a word. When the room settled back down, I wrapped up my presentation. I gave my conclusions. I gave recommendations, practical, realistic ones, for how universities could address implicit bias in faculty evaluation practices. I thanked everyone for listening. And I sat down. Standard procedure is that the professor gives feedback first. Dr. Holt looked at her notepad for a long moment. And then she looked up at me. And she said, "Maya, this is the strongest work I have seen in this seminar in many years." The room went so quiet I could hear the HVAC system. She kept going. She said the methodology was rigorous. She said the framing was sophisticated. She said the courage it took to present work that implicitly, she used that word, implicitly, challenges the environments we all exist in was exactly the kind of academic bravery the field needs. And then she said something that I will hear in my head for the rest of my life. She said, "I owe some of you, and perhaps specifically you, Maya, a reflection that I should have done a long time ago." She didn't break down. She didn't make a whole thing of it. But she said it. In that room. In front of everyone. I didn't cry in the moment. I was too wired. Too in my body. I just nodded and said thank you, and I held it together until I got to the bathroom down the hall, and then I sat on the floor for about 4 minutes just breathing. Okay, so here's what happened after. I got an A in the seminar. My highest grade in any class I ever took with Dr. Holt. But honestly, the grade wasn't the part that changed things. What changed things was what happened in the 2 weeks after that presentation. Dr. Holt emailed me. She asked if I would be willing to share my research, anonymized, properly handled, with the department's faculty development committee. She said they were beginning a review of grading practices and evaluation consistency, and my data would be genuinely useful. I said yes. I also said, in that same email, that I would only share it under one condition, that the students who'd participated in the survey were informed of how it was being used and given the chance to opt out. She agreed immediately. That felt important. That she agreed immediately. A month later, and I know this because Jasmine screenshotted the department newsletter, the communications department announced a new initiative, anonymous mid-semester check-ins between students and a faculty ombudsperson, specifically to flag concerns about classroom dynamics before they became larger issues. Was that because of me? I don't know. Maybe not entirely. These things are usually already in motion somewhere. But it did not start because of me. And here's the thing about Dr. Holt that I've been sitting with ever since, because it's complicated and I want to be honest about it. I don't think she's a villain. I know, I spent like 20 minutes telling you how awful she made me feel. And it was awful. I don't want to minimize that. 3 years of feeling unseen by someone whose opinion genuinely mattered, that does something to you. That changes how you see yourself in rooms. But I think she's a person who had a bias she wasn't aware of, who was operating on autopilot in a way that was genuinely harmful, and who, when the mirror was held up clearly enough, could actually see herself. That doesn't mean it was okay. It wasn't. It means she's human and humans can change. I ran into her at the campus coffee shop about 3 weeks before graduation. Just the two of us, kind of awkwardly in line together. And she asked how I was doing, what my plans were after school. I told her I'd been accepted to a master's program in media studies. She said, "Good. They're lucky to have you." And for the first time in 3 years, I believed that she meant it. I didn't forgive everything in that moment. Forgiveness isn't a switch you flip. But something softened. Something that had been clenched in my chest for years just let go a little. I graduated 2 months later. Jasmine and I walked across that stage together. My mom was in the third row, and she cried through all of it and then denied crying for the entire lunch after. And here's what I want you to take from this, if you take anything. Your voice is not too much. If someone keeps turning your volume down, that's about them, their bias, their comfort zone, their inability to sit with someone who challenges them. It is not evidence that you should be quieter. The hardest thing I ever did was not going off on Dr. Holt. Not storming out. Not writing the angry email I drafted 17 times. The hardest thing was staying in that room, doing better work, and making the truth undeniable. It doesn't always work out like this. I know that. Sometimes the system just grinds you down, and the Dr. Holts of the world never have their moment of self-reflection, and the Courtneys of the world never see what's happening. But sometimes, when you make your work impossible to ignore, the room shifts. And when that room shifted for me, 3 years of weight came off my shoulders in about 20 minutes. Worth it. I'm Maya. I start my master's program in the fall. And Dr. Holt wrote me one of my recommendation letters. Thanks for listening. And that's the whole story. If you made it all the way to the end, genuinely, thank you. That means a lot. Most people tap out. You didn't. That tells me you're the kind of person who actually cares about real stories, real experiences, real people, and that's exactly who this channel is for. So, if you haven't already, subscribe. Right now. Hit the button. Because next week's story? Oh man. Next week's story is about something that happened to a guy at his job that makes this whole thing look like a minor inconvenience. You do not want to miss it. Like this video if Maya's story hit different for you. And drop your city in the comments. Seriously. Rawalpindi, Karachi, Islamabad, wherever you're watching from, I want to see it. This community is global and I love every single one of you for being here. I'll see you in the next one.